We have a short squeeze potentially starting with RxRx. This is a stock that Cathie Wood has recently started to buy. That got some news today that sent the stock up over 14.5%. A larger move could be coming, but it's not guaranteed. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. I don't have a crystal ball. So if you trade or invest in this stock, you could lose all of your money. As a disclaimer, I may or may not have a position in RxRx. In this case, I do, but I could lose all of my money, and I understand that risk. Recursion Pharmaceuticals shares rose 16% in recent Thursday trading, extending earlier gains after the company struck a deal with research partner Bayer to in-license a new chemical entity stemming from their fibrosis collaboration. The compound represents a new approach to treating fibrotic disease with compelling early data showing a potential to reverse disease-related fibrotic processes, including mesenchymal dysfunction, Recursion Pharmaceuticals said Thursday in a statement. So that could be pretty big news. We don't know the extent of that partnership, units, or how many people could even be treated using that potential upcoming therapy. That's still something that is, a ways out though. RxRx has been able to establish 4 partnerships thus far, which will utilize its AI-driven drug development technology known as Recursion OS. So this is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company that specializes in an AI platform to help develop drugs. So this is kind of like an AI trade also, which recently, as you know, AI has gotten a lot more popular, but what has also been doing well over the past couple of days are medical related companies. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, CRISPR, not as much today, but previously, the last week or so, healthcare was the top performing sector. TipRanks says clinical stage biotech company Recursion Pharmaceuticals might be a relatively small company, but it's taking significant steps towards a stronger future. Wall Street currently forecasts about 23% upside potential in the next 12 months. Plus, Recursion's strategic partnership with some big names, including NVIDIA, to revolutionize AI in drug discovery has Wall Street optimistic about its long-term potential. This company has a dang deal with NVIDIA. That's impressive. This article from The Motley Fool says Cathie Wood can't get enough of Recursion Pharmaceuticals. Through her ARK Innovation ETF, the Maverick Growth Stock Portfolio Manager bought shares of the biotech 3 times, expanding her position from a mere 61,000 shares to roughly 4 million shares by November 14th. When news of her purchasing first broke, the company's stock rose 30% over the following days. You can see this article was published on November 1st, 2023, and take a look at this. It says RxRx is collaborating with German pharmaceutical maker Bayer to find leads for oncology drugs in a deal that could eventually yield it royalties as much as up to $1.5 billion in milestone payments. It's likely that when the two businesses announced on November 9th that their collaboration would be updated and refocused on oncology, Cathie Wood interpreted it as a highly bullish sign. So now that you actually have this partnership that is compelling, or at least showing compelling data here, I mean, that's a pretty good catalyst if I ever seen one for a potential short squeeze. Cathie Woods, as of recently, has indeed continued to buy more stock, even since January 2nd, 2024. She bought 128,000 shares. She bought almost 200,000 shares on December 29th, 112,000 shares on December 12th. December 11th, bought 1.14 million shares of RxRx. How about another 2.2 million shares on December 8th? ARK Invest now owns 6.88 million shares, over 3% of the entire company. Recent option activity for RxRx you're seeing about 85% call volume compared to about 15% put volume. Actually, a little bit less than 15% put volume. So you're pretty much seeing 5 calls being bought for every 1 put. Short interest in Recursion Pharmaceuticals sits at 22.34%, so it is an extremely short stock. And as you can see here, the short position itself has increased 30% over the past 3 months, but the dollar amount has increased 81%. That means short sellers are taking some pretty big losses. Just even back in October or November, the total dollar amount sold short in Recursion Pharmaceuticals was around $160 million. Today, it's $367.27 million. So anyone that had short positions on Recursion is really starting to lose now. It gets to a certain point. If you start to break out, we'll talk about the technicals here. That's going to put even more pressure on some of these shorts. And with a smaller name like Recursion, it could just be a couple concentrated short positions. Now, if you take a look at the days to cover, you're at 9.08. That is up 112% over the past 3 months. So volume has actually been pretty low. So what you're seeing now is definitely a bit of a volume spike. But relative to 3 months ago, I mean, the volume is still down a lot. That's basically what days to cover is telling you. You do have 37.9 million shares that are currently sold short. That's up about 34% over the past 3 months. Shares out on loan up 22.5% over the past 3 months at 37.81 million. Cost to borrow numbers are very low. So that's where the shorts are kind of being saved right now. But if the stock continues to rally, that could change. Cost to borrow max at about 2.3%. Cost to borrow average at 1%. And cost to borrow minimum at 1/3 of 1%. Utilization rates at 41.68%, and your overall short score 75.53 out of 100. As you can see from RxRx chart, it does have a tendency to go through some pretty aggressive rallies, especially when there is good news, and usually those rallies last more than 1 day. So that's where some of this thesis also comes from. The stock is currently trading at $11.15 per share. Crazy, it actually closed at $11.11 per share. That's got to be some kind of good luck there. The stock IPO'd at $30 per share in April of 2021. So yeah, it's way off of those levels. The drawback to that is when the stock is not doing well, the stock really does not do well. You can go from $15 down to $4 or $5 like nobody's business with Recursion Pharmaceuticals. That's because it's just so, I guess, speculative, if you will. There's nothing like this out there. That's why it is a very high risk, high reward kind of trade. Now, what are my expectations from this? Well, I clearly think a short squeeze or some form of rally is likely to continue. The stock closed in the low $11 range. Typically, once you get above about $11 per share, like you even seen back here in 2022, you can go through that kind of pop-off top rally. And we've hit anywhere from $14 to $17 in the past. So that's kind of my expectations here. Now, for any downside, I think that's important to acknowledge as well. It looks like ever since November, you have a pretty solid uptrending line. Now, maybe we break that and we start to really go higher, and then the trend lines are ultimately going to break. But if you do get rejected and this rally does not turn into a short squeeze or a much larger rally, as I think it can, then I would target that downside around $9 per share. If you're trading this with shares, that would probably be a good point to put on a stop loss, potentially even take profits around $14, $15 per share if you want it to be a little bit more conservative with your trading. And if we take a look at the option chain expiring January 19th, 2024, you can see the call side at the $11 call has open interest of around 700, 800 or so. And you've seen volume today of 1,000. So there was some decent activity around that $11 call. The $10 call had 274 for volume today, and open interest of 1,200. The $9 call has open interest of 1,400. So there are some decent numbers here, but nothing that's spectacular or too crazy. The 1250 call had 500 for volume today. Open interest of 778. The trade that I personally bought was about 20 of these $14 calls expiring January 19th. You had volume today of 261, and it says open interest of 17, which that will obviously change coming tomorrow. RxRx also looks pretty attractive for a longer term trade or investment, as there is 2 more catalysts that will be coming in 2024 that we know of for sure. Recursion Pharmaceuticals proof of concept data from the phase 2 Sycamore study using REC 994 for the treatment of patients with cerebral cavernous malformation. That data is expected in the second half of 2024. And safety and preliminary efficiency data from the phase 2 and 3 polar study using REC 2282 for the treatment of patients with neural fibromatosis type 2 expected in the second half of 2024 as well. There is currently no options to treat either one of these conditions. So any positive data here is going to be seen as very positive. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.